Hi neighbors, this is Alicia from Crafting in My Corner. I'm a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator, and I'm so glad you could join me in my crafting corner tonight. We are going to do a Stampin' Sunday video, and we're going to make a really sweet card today that looks like this. So I'm going to turn my camera around and we can go ahead and get started. For our video tonight, we're going to be using the Feels Like Home stamp set, which is a set from the Celebration catalog. If you place an order between now and the end of September, you can get one item from the Celebration catalog for every $30 that you purchase. So this is a stamp set that I chose for that, as a reward for that. So tonight we're going to be making a card. It's going to be this card. It says, "I'm always and forever here for you." Tonight we're going to need our early espresso cardstock. We're going to use a wood grain pattern DSP, and this is from the Beauty of the Earth suite. We need some basic white, and I'm going to use the Stamparatus to stamp tonight. Anytime you want to place an order, you can visit my website at aliciadolan.stampinup.net. That's where you'll find all of the stamping supplies, paper, ink, any tools that you might need. And we're going to use the Stamparatus. I've already placed my stamp on the Stamparatus, and a helpful hint is if you are going to make more than one card, you can mark your grid paper on your Stamparatus so that you know exactly where to place your next piece of paper. So my piece of basic white is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, and I'm going to place it right in that corner, and I'm going to put my magnet down kind of on this corner over here. Let me double check and make sure. Oh, I think I didn't cut this one. Okay, let me make a small correction. So that's going to be 3 by 4 1/4, that piece of basic white. I forgot that I cut that down a little bit earlier. Lately, I've been doing these videos live, but you'll notice that this one is pre-recorded. I have been struggling a little bit to get there on time, and I don't want you guys to miss out on a Stampin' Sunday, because Stampin' Sundays are fun, and I don't want you to miss that. So I'm going to take my Early Espresso ink pad and ink up my stamp. Let's see, I don't think you can see that. Let me move it down just a bit. And I'm just going to do that by tapping gently on my stamp on the Stamparatus plate. And my ink, this one is fairly new, and so it's really, I have to be very gentle with it. Otherwise I get too much ink really quickly on my stamp. And then I just close the plate like this and press it gently in the center. And there we have our image. And then I'm going to take my chamois and I'm going to wipe my stamp off so that I hopefully don't get ink all over the place. This ink pad is new, and I just added extra ink to it, which I probably didn't need to. And now I think I added a little bit too much. So I'm trying to avoid making a mess like I did earlier by cleaning as I go. These Stampin' Chamois are really handy to have. They're not very expensive, and all you need to clean with them is water. So that makes it really nice. Now I am going to pull this off and put it away. And when I put my stamps in the case, this is just a trick that I've learned. I keep the backing that comes on them because they're really sticky. And I've found sometimes they stick to the other side of the case and it's hard to get them off. And I feel like the more you peel them, the more chance you could damage them. So I always try to cover them up with the shiny part of that backing paper. So that keeps them clean and keeps them from sticking to the other side. Okay, so here is our image, and I'm going to set it aside and let it dry for a minute because I know that it's extra wet. And then I'm going to grab my scrap piece of white. Oops. Which I put just out of my reach. And as you can see, this is where I got a little smudgy earlier. One of the places. I did smudge all over the place, actually. And then I'm gonna use I'm just using this as a base right now because I know it's nice and flat to stamp on. And I'm gonna stamp my next image, which is I'm always and forever here for you. And I'm just going to tap it gently in my ink. And when you turn it over, you'll know if it's got enough on it. If it's all shiny, then it's inked up well. And I'm going to stamp it right here. And it doesn't matter if I stamp it perfectly straight because I'm going to punch it out. So there is that. And then I'm going to stamp it off a little bit before I clean it. I'll set that one aside to dry for just a second. Oh, no, actually I need to leave that open because I'm not quite done with it yet. And then we're going to take our Label Me Fancy punch, which looks like this. And I'm going to line this up. If you're using a punch, it's best if you turn your punch upside down and line up your image inside there. And then just punch it out. I find that's the best way to get a nice, clean, punched image. Plus, then you don't have to worry about if you've got it in just the right spot or not. It's going to be in the right spot. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to ink up the edges of this punched image a little bit just to give it a little definition to kind of separate it from our other image. So to do that, we're going to get our ink back over here. I'm going to move my Stamparatus out of the way. And I am going to use a sponge dauber. Now, if you've never used a sponge dauber before, they come in really handy. They come in, I think, little packs of 10, either 8 or 10. And all you're going to do is you can put your finger inside a little bit, and then you're just going to tap it in your ink. And then I like to smudge mine off. I should have saved my little smudgy paper so I didn't make another mess, but that's all right. And then I'm going to smear it along the edges like this. And that just gives it a little definition and helps it stand out a little. And maybe even makes it look a little antique-y, I don't know. but I definitely like the way it adds a little something to our stamping. Okay, so there is that. I'm going to set that aside. And since our card today is, our card base is early espresso, that's a rather dark cardstock. I'm just going to cut a piece for the inside of the card that is 5 1/4 by 4. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my cardstock. I'm going to smudge it just a little bit around the edges. Now, I didn't even add any extra ink, and I'm working kind of fast. But all we're doing is softening the edge just a little bit. And this time, it's not actually so that it stands out, but so that it blends in a bit. So we can sponge all along the edges. And then I'm going to close up my ink pad just so I don't get ink where I don't want it. We'll take our early espresso cardstock. Now this is a piece of 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, and it's scored at 4 1/4. So that makes your standard A2 size card. So we're going to fold that in half and use the bone folder to make sure it's nice and smooth. You can see I really did make a mess with my ink earlier. And I tried to clean that off, but it won't come off. So hopefully it won't smear on anything else, but we'll see. Now on the inside, we're just going to take our piece of white, and I'm going to use some liquid glue, just a thin line around the edges, and then a squiggle in the middle. And when I add this glue on, I don't press the tip down into the cardstock because that will score it a little bit. And I want it to be as nice and smooth as it can be. So then we'll line it up in the center and press it down. Now that makes a nice canvas to write on. If you have some of those pens that are meant for writing on dark cardstock, you might not want to add that white piece to the middle, but I like to add it just because I usually write with blue or black ink and it wouldn't show up well on the dark cardstock. Now we're going to take our piece of DSP and some of this really pretty scallop laced trim ribbon, and I am going to cut that just larger than the width of my designer series paper. And then I'm going to use some mini glue dots to adhere this on. And I'm going to line this up on my grid paper. I love to work on grid paper because it helps me figure out where all my pieces should go. So I'm going to roll up the glue dot using my take your pick tool. Whoops. And I'm going to add these to my paper at about in between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to stick them along. Sure I am. Right about here. And then I can put my ribbon over top. just line it up along that grid. If I don't scoot everything out of the way. And then I can turn it over. And this time I'm not going to be as careful with my little glue dots. I'm just going to pick them up and stick them on the paper on either side. And then I can fold that ribbon in right on top of them. And it should hold them on there. The reason I rolled them up on the other side is because when I turned it over, if I had them sticking down here through the more netted part, it would stick to my paper, and I don't want it to do that while I'm sticking on the back. All right, and now we're going to use our liquid glue. And we're going to put a thin line around the edge. And then a squiggle in the middle. And I'm going to turn that over, whoops, the right way so that it's right side up. And I'm going to place it in the middle of the front of my early espresso card. I don't think it's exactly in the middle, but I suppose it's close enough. So there is that one. And now I'm going to get those pieces that we put to the side. I'm going to turn this one over and use some of my Stampin' Dimensionals to pop it up from the front of the card. Just like that. And we're going to stick that up so that it just covers the top of our ribbon, our pretty scallop lace trim down there. And then our sentiment we're going to turn over, and on the right hand side of it we're going to add a little Stampin' Dimensional. And on the left side, we're going to put a glue dot. Oh, and I just did that backwards. Okay, so here's what I mean. I was supposed to add it on this side, and I didn't. I put it on the other side. So I'm going to fix it by... Let's see, I'm going to fix it with some mini Stampin' Dimensionals. And so what I'll do instead of having that glue dot there is over top the glue dot, I'm going to put a mini Stampin' Dimensional. And then I'm going to put a second mini Stampin' Dimensional. And the reason I'm doing that is because my last layer, this layer, is popped up from the front of the card. And so if I want this sentiment to be level, I have to adjust a little bit for that spot where it's popped up. So we're just going to put it right here. And then see how that kind of levels it out. I don't know if you guys can tell or not, maybe from this side, if you can see how the layers work together. So there we have a really simple, beautiful card made with our Feels Like Home stamp set. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday, doing lots of stamping, or at least lots of renewing of your spirit. That's how I usually find some of my spirit renewal is in crafts. So remember, if you want to place an order, if you place an order before September 15th, which is coming really soon, I will still send you the kit to make the 8 Christmas cards. There's 2 each of 4 different designs. Let me show you those real quick in case you missed them in my last video. So here is the first one. Now they don't come with the stamp set. Here is the second one. But if you are interested in these, send me a message or give me a call and let me know. Here's the third one. And here is the fourth one. And at the Christmas, I think it was Christmas in August class, I also showed this really cute treat holder and how to make this cute treat box. So if you are interested in any of those, you can go back and watch. It's on Facebook and on YouTube, the directions for how to do that. Or if you place an order that's $100 or more, I will send you the kit to make these cards. It doesn't come with stamps or ink or adhesive, so you would have to have those on your own. And if you don't have this stamp set, you could use any stamp set you have to put the cards together, or you could even make them without the stamps. So I hope you're having a wonderful time, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye, everyone.